Welcome back to RFL. We turn now to the troubled school district in East Ramapo, New York. Lawmakers from Rockland County introduced a bill in Albany that would establish state oversight of schools in that district. The school board is controlled by Orthodox Jewish leaders who are accused of mismanaging district finances, particularly at the expense of minority students. Now, the board members say that the school funding system is flawed and that it's based on the number of students who attend public schools as opposed to the number of students in the district overall. Here are the numbers. There are 33,500 students in the district system. 8,500 of them attend public schools, but 25,000 students attend private schools. Most of them are yeshivas. Now, board members and other supporters say all students are entitled to things like buses, books, security, and other services. At least that's the opinion of 7 of the 9 board members who happen to be Orthodox Jews. Now, Assemblymember Ken Zabrowski has been working on that bill that would establish state oversight. The Assemblyman joins us now for the segment. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start with those claims by the board members and by the people who support them. They say, hey, there's a need here for these services for students, whether we're in public schools or private schools, and we have to siphon some of that money away from the public system to afford that or to provide that for private school students. What's your response?
Let me answer that quite succinctly. They're right. But this is a classic example of trying to address one problem by pointing to another problem. There certainly is funding concerns. I've had a bill for a number of years now amending the combined wealth ratio to better represent the district in a way that will bring more dollars in. However, that doesn't change the fact that there's a governance problem here. Now, in order to change policy and governance, you introduce a bill. In order to change funding, you work for it in the budget. We're doing those two things simultaneously right now.
So what, in your estimation, is the problem in East Ramapo right now? Is it that the Orthodox majority on the school board is simply representing the interests of those students and those students only?
Well, let me first say that I think this has nothing to do with religion. The religion of the members of the board really don't matter here. We could envision a situation where perhaps a 55 or 65 year and older community was built, and members that didn't have kids in the public school system were elected to the board, and you could perhaps see the same type of scenario here. What's happening, and this isn't just what I'm saying, but the Board of Regents appointed an independent fiscal monitor to take a look at this district and to do a report. And before the report came out, the board was saying publicly, we're happy to provide information to the fiscal monitor and we're happy to have his report. But what the monitor found was that public school parents, their voices weren't being heard. He found that the district was on the precipice of a fiscal disaster, and that when cuts were being made, they weren't necessarily being made equitably. And what he suggested was that a full-time state monitor be appointed over the district to oversee the funds, to oversee the budget, to oversee those things to ensure that everybody's voice was heard. And that's what it's really about.
And so your bill, and you're one of the authors of it, there are others from Rockland, basically sets up a monitor who can overturn decisions that are made by the school board independently, single-handedly?
Yes. So yeah, the bill I worked on with Senator Carlucci, Assemblywoman Jaffe, and myself. And what it does is it gives the monitor powers. It allows the commissioner to appoint a monitor, gives the person powers. The power to propose resolutions to the board, the power to overturn decisions, access to documents and things like that. It also charges the monitor with certain duties, one of which is to develop a 5-year comprehensive plan to improve things like student outcomes and educational outcomes, to improve the fiscal governance, to look at things like English language learners, which is a significant portion of the district, and to bring the district back to the public at large. And hopefully it will also serve the purpose of decreasing the tension there. What I've said to the board is this is a perfect example for them to tell their story to an independent person too, and hopefully dial down the conflict that we've seen there. We've seen some horrific instances in this district over the past several years and months.
I want to bring the rest of the panel into this. Richard, you've heard what the Assemblyman's proposing, what's in the bill. Do you think that gets the job done?
I think it's a great step in the right direction, but it's much more difficult and complicated than Ken is admitting to, and I think I understand why. I had a similar political problem in the city of Yonkers where the government was not functioning, and we appointed a control board. This is a one-person control board. In theory, what this does is it says there are limits to democracy, that when you have an elected board, sometimes other factors are so powerful that you have to find a way to get essentially appointed people to oversee and tell elected people what to do. Very hard to accept in a democracy. The nature of the problem, though, and I think Ken has been very persuasive about this, is so powerful. The social consequences, the educational consequences are so enormous that I think he's come up with the best of all possible worlds, which is not chopped liver in many cases. So yes, I think this is the way to go. Yes, I think they've done this thoughtfully and in consultation. As to whether it's going to work, I think that's to be seen.
Bill, what's your take?
My take is that it's a good step forward as well. I mean, I don't know if it gets at the heart of the problem where you have two distinct constituencies that each want to take care of their own interests. It's a very difficult thing. I think Richard says it very well, that there are limits to democracy, and that in a circumstance like this, which is unusual, something clearly has to get done. I don't know how the Assemblyman does the tightrope walking in his district. I mean, that's a tough one. And I'm curious what the reaction is to the bill in the Orthodox community, how that's going.
Do you have any sense of that, Assemblyman?
Well, we haven't yet, we just presented it yesterday, so we've certainly heard from some people in support and from some people in opposition. And what I've said to the people opposition is, look, every time I've gone in and spoken to the board, they've said, and I've gone with concerns from parents, they've said, they're wrong, you don't understand, this is not what we're doing. These stories you hear about teachers being cut and programs being cut isn't what's really happening. Well, but at these boards, which are literally screaming matches from both sides, we've had situations where the attorney for the board has called parents four-letter words. This is their opportunity to dial it down a bit and explain to somebody who then can explain to the community, this is what's really happening.
But one of the political challenges in these kinds of communities is that they tend to vote as 99% blocks, where 99% of all the people in that one subset of the community will vote one way for one candidate or another. Has that impacted the politics of all this, trying to get perhaps greater oversight, or trying to get some of the communities to play better with each other?
Those dynamics haven't affected our drafting of the bill or our discussions. As the panelists have said, it's a very difficult and unique situation, but we can't let a generation of children just be lost, and the opportunities that they have in their district.
Right? And that's exactly, I just want to give you for a second the perspective of the Black and Latino community, and that is, full disclosure, that's my school district. I had to hire a lawyer for my own son when it came time for his special education. And they fought us tooth and nail. They finally gave us special services like a monitor all day long, but they refused to give him special education. So look at it from the perspective of the district. You have predominantly Black and Latino kids, same tax base dollars, right? Mm-hmm. But yet 25,000 Hasidim go to private schools, and the public kids are left. The public school, they're left to battle it out over those few dollars. And how the deck is stacked, Hasidim, my friends, many of them in the Hasidim community, they vote in blocks. So they stack the school board, and then all of a sudden the school board says, we're sending all the Hasidim kids to private schools. The rest of you, good luck with the public school system. And oh, by the way, you have less money. This is a major civil rights violation. And I applaud the legislation. I think anybody that's reasonable would applaud this legislation, because something has to get done. Period. It's that simple.
When asking your question of Ken, I don't know that you, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, I don't know if you heard the answer. The answer ultimately was he's going to do what he thinks he has to do, right, and the politics will work themselves out later. He can't say that, I can. And I think that is, to some extent, a vindication of the leadership that he's trying to exert here. As to the social undercurrent, I think Dominic is absolutely correct in pointing out how dramatic and powerful a force it is. And again, we have decided that the results of an election will be subject to the control of a non-elected person. I think it's, as I said before, I think it's the way you have to go, but I don't think we should dismiss the notion. The fact of it was that that's the demographics of the community. That's what that board is what an election yielded, and that has to be part of this.
And that's why the Black and Latino community in East Ramapo, they have to look in the mirror and blame themselves. If you turned out and voted, then you would have some representation on the school board. You didn't vote, but now you're complaining because it's almost all predominantly Hasidim.
I think it's important to point out as well that both sides on this issue are doing what they think is right for their children.
You can't think,
Both
you can't,
sides.
there's no way, Bill. There's no way.
I think it's
It's
important to
not
have-
fair what's happening to the Black and Latino kids.
I agree.
It's not
I agree.
fair.
I agree.
I'm listening. I'm listening very well to what he's saying.
I got to cut up, but Assemblyman, thank you for being here. This is an issue that we've been reporting on for a long time. It's certainly a difficult one, so best of luck in trying to bring both sides together.
That's what it's all about. And thank you for having me here today. And this will play out over the next several months now.
Assemblyman Ken Zimbrowski, thanks very much. We're going to take a quick break here on RFL. When we come back, we turn to New Jersey politics and catch up with Rich, who's on the walk to Washington, which is actually on a train. Someday somebody will explain that to me. We're going to hear from Assemblyman John Wisniewski, what he says needs to be done to fix New Jersey's broken transportation infrastructure. Stay with us.